Dari kota pahlawan, suara kebenaran, jadi penerang bawa jawaban. Surabaya Media Group, informatif, edukatif, solutif. Ayo rek, maju bareng, SuRObOYO Media Group.
I now have the honor to give the floor to the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Gutteres, before I will make my statement as a President of the General Assembly. Please, Secretary General, you have the floor.
Madam President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, as we meet here today, the safety and welfare of millions of Palestine refugees hangs in the balance. In Gaza, Israeli attacks have killed more than 1,000 Palestinians since and despite the ceasefire announced last October. And living conditions are utterly appalling. Unexploded ordnance, open sewers, rodent infestations, disease outbreaks, soaring temperatures, widespread displacement. Families struggle to access safety, shelter, food, clean drinking water, education, and health care. Many are still sleeping out in the open or going to bed hungry. In the occupied West Bank, Palestinians face relentless settler violence and settlement expansion, along with home demolitions, land confiscation, displacement orders, movement and access restrictions, and the growing threat of annexation, which would blatantly violate international law. In Lebanon, despite the present agreement, many are still uprooted following airstrikes and evacuation warnings. In Syria, Palestine refugees remain displaced after 13 years of conflict, while others return to heavily damaged homes. And in Jordan, they live on a shoestring. Excellencies, for generations, Palestine refugees have counted on UNRWA for registration, emergency assistance, and essential public services. I commend Member States for their continued contributions and indispensable support. But the agency situation is increasingly precarious. It faces sweeping restrictions throughout the occupied Palestinian territory, and the cash shortfall that imperils its work across the region. Despite painful austerity and cost control measures, a deficit of $100 million prevents the agency from meeting its current obligations. I commend the leadership of Christian Saunders, the Acting Commissioner General, under these growing pressures. And I applaud the tireless efforts by UNRWA personnel to keep delivering under some of the harshest conditions imaginable. I have rarely, if ever, seen such dedication. But let's be real, they cannot keep going like this without urgent backing and financial support from Member States. I am deeply concerned about UNRWA's liquidity crisis, which jeopardizes its ability to implement its mandate. A mandate given by the General Assembly and renewed 6 months ago with overwhelming Member State support. A mandate that enables the provision of critical services to 2.6 million people in need. And a mandate that reflects the international community's continuing responsibility towards Palestine refugees. The cash shortfall has grave implications for the entire region. UNRWA is a stabilizing force in an age of instability, registering, protecting and assisting highly vulnerable populations and countering the hopelessness that can fuel insecurity. Its local personnel provide essential public services and support that millions rely upon every day. As doctors, nurses, counselors, teachers, engineers and drivers, they bring deep reserves of community trust. In Gaza, for example, UNRWA remains the largest primary health care provider. It conducts immunization campaigns, nutrition screenings, water quality testing, and pest control efforts. Operates water wells, desalination systems, and waste management services. Provides psychological support and emergency learning, and has a critical role to play in advancing the urgently needed recovery. Excellencies, I'm appalled by continuing efforts to marginalize and undermine UNRWA. Through disinformation, smear campaigns, legislative actions, operational restrictions, diplomatic roadblocks, and more. Those actions threaten the well-being of millions of Palestinians, and they endanger the dedicated women and men working for UNRWA. Since October 2023, more than 390 of our dear colleagues in Gaza have been killed. I will never forget their sacrifice. Many others have been physically injured or left with the trauma and anguish of losing so many loved ones. Every single one of the agency premises in the Strip has been damaged or destroyed. For nearly 18 months, none of the international personnel have been allowed to enter the occupied Palestinian territory. And earlier this year, its headquarters in occupied East Jerusalem were unlawfully seized in a striking and unacceptable violation of United Nations privileges and immunities. I condemn these actions in the strongest terms and call for adherence to international law. All UN premises are inviolable. And the International Court of Justice has clearly recalled the obligations of Israel in relation to the presence and activities of the United Nations, including UNRWA. No organization can replace or substitute the agency's capacity and mandate. Excellencies, UNRWA has taken decisive steps to ensure its house is in order. This includes reaffirming its commitment to uphold humanitarian principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence, updating its policy on outside and political activities, fully implementing 40 recommendations of the independent review of UNRWA's neutrality, led by Catherine Colonna in 2024, and pressing ahead with the other 10. The agency is also working hard to adapt to new realities, with a sharper focus on building self-reliance and more sustainable, cost-effective, and efficient ways to deliver services. Strict cash flow management has largely prevented the loss of jobs for Palestine refugees. But earlier this year, UNRWA was compelled to reduce its service delivery by 20%. That meant reducing salaries for most local personnel, keeping 15% of international posts vacant, and exposing Palestine refugees to more hardship. Any further cuts could push conditions past the breaking point. Excellency, UNRWA remains essential to preserving the humanitarian conditions necessary for a just and lasting political solution with two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security within secure and recognized borders, with Jerusalem as the capital of both states. I'm counting on you to keep speaking up for the agency and all those it serves. Your political support is crucial, but I urge you to match it with the necessary financial resources. Not next year, not next month, now. By sustaining UNRWA's vital work, we can address the needs of Palestine refugees today, uphold international responsibility, and help a volatile region find its way to a just and peaceful future. Thank you.
I thank the Secretary.
Hey Re, SuRObOYO, dari kota pahlawan, suara kebenaran, jadi penerang bawa jawaban. Surabaya Media Group, informatif, edukatif, solutif. Ayo Re, maju bareng, SuRObOYO Media Group.